Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Medical Research with Mohan. I am Dr. Mohan Raj Sharma. Happy Tihar to all of you. May this festival of light up your path to success and happiness. During this festival season, I have chosen the topic essentials of grant writing. Many organizations which provide grant to the aspiring researchers usually do so in the winter season. Hence, I believe it is relevant for all of you to know about the skills of grant writing. In this video, I'll help you understand the basics of grant writing, and next, I'll help you convert your research ideas to an effective grant proposal in the absence of a grant writer. What is a grant? A grant is the monetary assistance given to an individual or an organization for covering the financial aspect of the research work. Who provides grant funding? These are usually foundations, corporations, or government agencies, both national and international. They are also called grantors. And grants usually come with very specific guidelines, what the money can or cannot be used for, the rules for how the winner of the grant or the grantee will be chosen. What's grant writing? It is nothing but the act of preparing an application to receive funding for a project. It requires a set of specific skills and processes. However, it can be taught and learned like any other subject, but the prerequisite is you have to have a broad understanding of the research methods. The aim is to show the funder that your plan is the best possible choice for accomplishing your shared goals. These are the steps. First is selecting the topic of your interest, followed by finding out where to apply. Then read the instruction carefully, make sure you qualify for the grant application, then prepare the draft, submit, present, carry out the research, and submit the final report. Now let's discuss about the selection of your topic. There are two possibilities. First, you already have a project in mind and you are looking for the organizations who will potentially provide fund for this specific project. The other scenario could be you are open to do research on any topic of your area and you are looking for the funding organizations and select the topic accordingly. While selecting the topic, you should select the issue that is manageable with reasonable effort. The example would be don't select a topic like eradicating typhoid from Nepal or, eliminating the road traffic accidents from Nepal, that kind of thing, which are simply not achievable. Next step you need to learn is where to apply. We wrote an article in the Journal of Nepal Medical Association this June, and we wrote about a status of research funding in Nepal. I recommend you to go through this article to have an in-depth knowledge of the status of research funding in Nepal. Briefly, the national organizations which provide fund are University Grant Commission Nepal, Nepal Health Research Council, NAST, Tribhuvan University and Kathmandu University, whereas international organizations that have been regularly providing funds for research are WHO and Research Council of Norway, to name a few. After you know where to apply for the research, then you need to read about the organization where you intend to apply. You need to be thorough about that organization, read their priority areas, and their track record of previous funding in your proposed areas and the organizations similar to yours. This is extremely important. And another aspect you should read is whether they have funded on the similar topic in last 4 or 5 years. If they have done so, then they will be less inclined to fund your project. Next step you need to know is, are you eligible for grant funding? Many organizations or individuals are eligible to apply for grant funding, but you need to check. Some are restricted to people from one organization. For example, if Tribhuvan University announces funding for research, this would be restricted to all the faculty or students from Tribhuvan University. Similar thing may happen to Kathmandu University too. But if it is announced by the Nepal Health Research Council, then it will be open to all healthcare individuals working in Nepal. So you need to know this. Some organizations may only provide to academic institutions, not private institutions. For example, University Grant Commission Nepal provides grants to the academic institutions that you need to know. And some provide only for faculty and students and not for administrative staff. That also you need to know. So depending upon who you are and what your intention is and what the grant provider's intention is, those things should match. Next step you do is you read the instructions of the funders carefully. This is extremely important step, and what materials to prepare and submit depends on their instruction. Different grants can have widely different requirements depending upon your current academic standing, level of collaboration, whether it's a one department research or multi-departmental research or multi-centric research. Another is degree of novelty of your project. Is it a small research or collaborative research or innovation grant? So the amount of fund you request also depends on the magnitude and novelty of your project. Now let's go to the preparing the grant proposal per se. Previously, I have made a video on writing a successful research proposal. That was generic, but a lot of information can be useful from that video. So I recommend you to go through that video too. What is a grant proposal? It is a structured formal document that details what, why, and how. What is your proposed research topic, its worthiness, and your plan of execution. It is intended to convince funders that you have a worthwhile research project, the competent sampling units and other resources to complete it, and the feasible in terms of time and ethics. This slide shows the components of a grand research proposal. It starts with a project title and ends with a Gantt chart. We briefly go through each steps. Project summary is normally written last so that it's accurate and reflective of your whole story. But while you submit it, it has to be written before your main project description. The project summary should reflect the entire project, not just the part of the introduction, and it should stand alone. It should briefly summarize the all components of your research proposal and should normally be of 1 page in length. In introduction, this is what you write: what is known on the topic and what is yet to be known or solved, and this is to emphasize the research gap. And third step is why solving this problem is important to you, to the community, and to the funders. This is what you emphasize in your introduction part. The reason is mere repetition of a previous work will be a big no to the funders. Organizational background is also important. Who are you writing the grant for? That needs to be discussed. And what is your organization's history? Emphasize on your institute's good track record on conducting research of highest caliber with adequate institutional support and availability of the sampling units. For example, if I intend to do a research at Tribhuvan University Teaching Hospital, I will write about the number of patients available per year and the institutional support from the head of the institute and availability of the faculties from other departments. Next step is statement of the need. Why are you promising this particular project? That you need to elaborate, and what needs will it address in your community? What is the burning issue? By doing this research, what is going to be addressed? That part needs to be written here. And you need to use hard numbers to support your argument, not emotional plea. Novelty and association to national priority. What new evidence your project is going to generate that you need to describe here? Is it associated with your national or international priority areas? For example, currently we have a big problem of dengue in Nepal. Are you going to provide some solution to dengue fever? Also, you should read the publication from that organization also, and see if they have a certain priority areas where they are willing to fund. Now let's go to the objective part. What are the specific measurable goals for your project that you need to describe here? And as I said earlier in my videos, you should follow this SMART criteria to write the objectives, and you need to connect them back to the statement of need. The next step is to write the materials and methods or methodology. In materials and method, you will describe how you are going to implement your new project, and there should be a step-by-step description of the how things will be carried out and the timeline of this. Also, you need to describe the study site and its justification, why that particular site is ideal. Also describe inclusion and exclusion criteria. Next step is the research design. It is the blueprint of your project. It allows researcher to choose the research method suitable to answer the research question. And this is the hierarchy of scientific evidence. The higher up in the pyramid you go, the stronger the evidence generated. However, you should be conscious of your time, money, and other resources, whether you can achieve that goal or not. But depending upon your research question, certain research designs are mandatory. For example, if you are going to compare a treatment A over treatment B, then randomized controlled trials are preferred. If you are going to investigate the outbreak of a disease, then case control studies are better. So depending upon your research question, you need to select the research design. If you select a poor research design not suitable to answer the research question, it is almost certain that your project will be rejected. Sample size calculation is very important because the cost of the project depends on the size of your sample. However, it is most often improperly done or omitted in the proposal. Hence, the importance of getting a statistician in your team. Either there is under or over sample size, which are not good, and sample size and the basis and the method of determination, including the power of the study, level of significance, all these have to be written clearly so that the reviewer will be very positive about your research team and your ability to execute the project. Conceptual framework is also required in many grant proposals, and I have made a separate video on this topic too. Briefly, it is a visual representation of what you intend to derive from your study and describes various variables and their interplay in your study. For example, if we are going to do a study on driving under the influence of alcohol and increased risk of RTA, this is already a proven fact that driving under the influence of alcohol increases the risk of RTA. However, for the sake of demonstration, I have used this. So driving under the influence is the independent variable, increased risk of RTA is dependent variable, control variables or confounders are there, and effect modifiers are written there. So this is one example of writing a conceptual framework. Next step is data collection. Data collection is the costliest step in the research process. While doing the data collection, you should use validated tools only, and you need to specify who collects the data. It is not necessary that all the time principal investigator or co-investigators should collect data. You can hire research associate or data enumerator for this purpose, but you need to specify the fact that those research associates will be well trained before going to the field to collect data. And how is the accuracy of data collection ensured? That also you need to mention, that how many times you will train your junior researchers before they do the in-depth interview or focus group discussion. Next part is data analysis. You don't do data analysis in the research proposal, but what is your intention that needs to be specified? You need to mention statistical test in your proposal, and data analysis should be a pre-study plan process. It is not that appropriate test will be applied. You should have a reasonable knowledge on this aspect of statistics, but if you are not certain, then it's always better to have a statistician in your team right from the beginning. Ethical consideration will also be of importance for the reviewer. How you are going to select research participants, what is your informed consent process, How do you ensure the safety of the research participants should also be well written in the ethical part. Limitations and delimitations should also be written. Limitations are influences that are beyond the researcher's control and hence make up the potential weaknesses of the study. Delimitations describe the boundaries that a researcher sets for the research, choices made by the researchers, and hence narrow the scope of the study. There is subtle difference between limitation and delimitation, and you should be clear of these two bullets here. All studies have some limitations and delimitations which should be duly acknowledged. This truthfulness demonstrates that you have thought critically about the research problem and describe each limitation in concise terms and explain why that is inevitable. This is also important because you don't write many limitations and delimitation. Then the reviewer will ask the question, why did you choose this particular topic when you have so many limitations? So don't write more than 3 or 4 limitations or delimitations. Budget is the most thorny part of any funded project. How much will it cost to implement your project should be written here, and you should have a detailed item-wise breakdown of the fund requested for, along with a justification for each item. So how much you allocate for traveling, how much for data collection, how much for IRC approval, all those things should be written, and how much of that funding will come from different sources, including this grant. Sometimes only one grant may not be sufficient to complete your project, but you should be honest and describe from how many places are you going to get the grant. Work plan usually is described in the Gantt chart. This is one example of the Gantt chart, and this should be clearly written with a reasonable justification. Don't expand the time unnecessarily if your project is small, or don't squeeze a mega project into a one-year project. Both can be considered negatively by the reviewers. What are the risks and challenges that may impact the successful implementation of your project? And what are your potential solutions to this risk should be written here. In the evaluation plan, these two questions should be answered. How will you measure your progress and the impact of your project? And next, who does the supervision and monitoring? Next step, which is the easier one, is the dissemination of results. Most scientific way to disseminate the results are publication in the journal, but you can, present in the conferences. Normally, we do not go to the mainstream media first to disseminate your result, but after your publication, you can go to the media and should specify how and to whom the results will be disseminated, and clear description of the publication policy should be there. And some supporting documents are must while you apply for grant. If you have additional research to back up your statement of need and project impact would be nice. Also, resumes of PI and co-PI should be provided. While providing the resume, you emphasize on your ability of conducting this particular research and letter of support from your organizations and others. This is usually required by all organizations who fund. This is to back up your organization's ability to get things done. And specifically, your resume should include your research and academic background, and most important, related publication. If you have 150 publications, you may not be able to upload all those publications, but you should select those papers which are related to this particular project and your previous funded projects. This shows that you have the experience of carrying out these kind of research works. Things to keep in mind while applying. You are trying to prove that you are capable of conducting this research by education, experience, and training. Your research team is well versed in the proposed research and everyone has a role to play. Your organization / hospital is capable of providing adequate research participants. The topic is novel and relevant to current and future healthcare issues, or is one of the topics in national priority. And your writing is succinct and to the point. Research methods, statistical aspects, and objectives are in line with the research question. Couple of slides I like to show from this publication that why are proposals rejected. The failure to clearly define and appropriately frame the study questions, failure to follow the guidelines for proposal content, format, or length, incomplete, inaccurate, or outdated review of the literature. That shows that the researcher doesn't know the territory, inadequate description of the methodology. There are many ethical concerns, poor grammar, style, and syntax. This reflects carelessness and the author's unwillingness to attention to detail. And the proposed study appears to be beyond the capacity of the researcher in terms of training, experience, and available resources. Some do's: the proposal should be clear and concise, should be easy to understand, it should state clear outcomes, should be free of errors, and it's doable, free of unrealistic expectations. All components are well aligned, and overall, the whole project tries to make some impact to the society. A boring, convoluted writing or explanation is a big repulsion. Don't make assumptions and ready-made sentences like this. Nepal, one of the poorest countries, things may have changed over the years. Nepal, a very strong patriarchal society, in which particular geographical area you are referring to. No work has been done on this topic, no matter how small. There may be some studies done on this particular topic. You need to be very careful before you make such statements. And when you need to make such statements, they should be backed up by hard data from the previous publications. Emotional plays should be avoided, and do not exceed the words, figure, table, or page limits. And most important of it is, don't be late in submitting. You have put so much of blood, sweat, and tears in developing this grand proposal, and you suddenly find that the deadline is gone. This will be really a disastrous situation. Falsus in uno, falsus in omnibus means that false in one thing, false in everything. So don't make any false statement anywhere in your proposal. The moment somebody notices one false statement in one aspect, then they might feel that whole proposal is full of errors. Steps after a successful submission, this is what happens. Your proposal will undergo evaluation, usually by two reviewers who are blinded of your name and organization, and then they will do the shortlisting depending upon the number of applications. And if you pass through that first stage, you might be invited for oral presentation. The funding organization will make a decision either to award you fund or reject the proposal. If you are awarded the fund, then they will ask you to carry out the work, and usually they will ask you to do a midterm presentation. If it is a 4-year project, then sometime in the second year they will ask you to do the presentation about your progress. And then finally you should have a publication of your research work or submission of the final report to the funding organization, or both. So depending upon the organization's policy, some of these steps can be omitted, or some extra step may be added, but this is the general steps you have to go through. So to conclude my presentation for today, writing a good research proposal is a time and mind demanding process. However, there are no cookbook criteria, and this should be learned. Begin early so that you can finish early. And writing a grand proposal and conducting a successful funded project is a hard work, but gets easier with practice. My very best of luck to you in your next endeavor to get the fund for your research. Thank you for joining me in this grant writing proposal presentation video. I hope the information provided in this video will be of help to you. I hope to see you in next video. Bye.